Hi, welcome to this week's edition of Blues Talk. We're getting John, Dave and myself. We're going to look back over our disappointing display against Toulon at the weekend, look forward to our game against Ospreys on Friday, and also look at all the other Heineken Cup matches. So boys, very, very disappointing.
Yeah.
Very
Well,
sad.
Talk amongst yourselves. I don't freaking
It
care.
was a sad
anymore.
way for Drico and Leo to go out as a
Very
Heineken.
sad.
Nah, who cares? No, it was a very sad way, and it would have been something that you could take with you if we'd gone down swinging, but we didn't. There was no area of the pitch that we were even close to being able to match them. There was no area of the pitch where we were even close to being competent, and indeed off the pitch as well. Not in terms of the fans, but the tactics were wrong. Substitutions didn't really make any impact. Actually, some of them made a negative impact. It was just rubbish.
Yeah, it was. We lost it in our heads. Bernard Jackman's been on a couple of times making a deal out of how we approached the stadium and how we didn't, which. Okay, I would look at it the other way around. Maybe it's a reflection of where our heads were at, rather than our heads were bad because of. It's a kind of showing how
You go to the
How-
entrance of
how
the
we were in
stadium.
the wrong place.
You go to the entrance of the stadium where the local police direct your coach. That's how you get into the crowd. It's as simple as that.
well. So I heard
I
subsequently,
mean,
but
people are trying to put all sorts of kind of reasons to it. I'll tell you why we lost. We lost because Toulon are a better team than us. They're better coached. They're better players. They had better tactics. They knew how to hit us. Our own players played very poorly. We made a huge number of errors in the tackle.
26 missed tackles.
26 mixed tackles. We made a huge.
because the top 2 inches weren't there.
Well,
That's the main reason.
it's
Whether
a
that's the coach's fault, whether that's the player's fault, whether that's a
It's
combination
a team,
of all the
It's a
above.
team comprised of players who've won, in the main, 4 European trophies.
Yep.
If their heads aren't right, then they can't blame anyone but themselves. At the same time, one has to give credit to Toulon,
Absolutely.
who were excellent. They identified every weakness we had, and they absolutely buried us at them. Our line out
Yeah.
was a shambles. I mean, one thing,
Which is where we thought we'd have them.
yeah, one thing we thought we'd be able to do in a go-to would be, quick ball and then maul. Couldn't do that because we couldn't get any ball, let alone quick ball.
We even overthrew the ball.
Yeah.
There's 3 times we
Yeah,
overthrew
3
the ball.
times in the first half.
We were destroyed at the breakdown. Stefan Armitage had an absolute field day.
Yeah.
Um,
And Bastero as well.
and Bastero was excellent. I mean,
over the ball a
yeah.
lot, wasn't he?
yeah,
And very hard to move.
they were very, very good, very, very good, and we weren't. It's a case. Sometimes you see it in a lot of sports. Maybe a team that's together 1 year too long.
Are we on decline?
Decline's a strange word because you've got players who are actually on the up as well.
Of course.
But the unit as a whole, I think, needs reinvigoration, and I think the only way you can reinvigorate it is in terms of personnel. A lot of that is natural wastage. Brian Driscoll's retiring. Leo Cullen's retiring. I think there may be one or more who will also retire. I'm not sure about that. I'm not saying basing that on any kind of source or knowledge or anything. It's just a gut feeling that maybe one of the scrum halves will go. I don't know.
I can see them both wanting to
I-
get to the World Cup.
There's arguments to be made either way. I'm just basing it on some kind of a
Although if one of them is going, you'd have to say it's probably Boss
Yeah,
because he's
yeah.
6 months older and further away from the Irish team.
The question is how do we rebuild the team? I mean, Leinster is a team that's used to winning. The sport is used to being successful. There could be a couple of years in the European, maybe not wilderness. I don't ever see this getting bad enough that we aren't regularly making quarterfinals. But there could be a couple of years where we wouldn't be regularly winning trophies.
Mm-hmm.
But we've been deluding ourselves this season. I mean, I don't know how many times we've said that this season we've just been doing enough
Yeah.
to win, but we're playing.
Chickens
look
have
at
come home to roost, you reckon? Yeah?
But I just think that is it the quality that we're playing week in, week out? I mean, really.
Well, it should also be remembered. I mean, it's hard enough. It's very, very hard to win a Heineken Cup Magners League double. We've seen it ourselves.
Yeah.
Imagine how much harder it is to win a
Top
Six
14.
Nations,
Yeah.
Heineken Cup double. I mean, we won Six Nations.
But that was a point that was made by Jerry Thornley. Like he was saying, if you look at Toulon, they contributed very few. Well, Bastero to the French Six Nations squad.
Yeah.
Toulouse contributed. They were the
Bulk
supplier.
suppliers.
And obviously Leinster were. And maybe, as you say, there is that fatigue and trying to
It's the old English argument again. You know, we won the Heineken Cup every year in 01, 02 because we had the best league in the world, and then we lost the Heineken Cup because we have the hardest league in the world. You know, it's always going to be a knife edge there.
You can find an argument either way. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, like you and I have been having an argument for the last, how long, about whether
since you met
is international rugby better than this level at the Heineken Cup, for example, and you've just seen the Heineken Cup champions hand the bulk of the European champions arses to them on a plate. So, but then again, you could say, yeah, it's a different thing entirely. You're not playing for your country, blah, blah, blah. So there's arguments both ways, and it's the same thing with what you're saying about, is this a team in decline, or is this a team that is in its first stage of rebuilding?
Is there a big difference between those two things?
That's the thing,
how long will the decline be? Munster had a few years of decline, but hold on a minute, they won a few Rabos. They still they're in the semi-final of the Heineken Cup the last 2 years in a row.
But Irish teams over the last 10 years or 12 years have got such high expectations and standards in the Heineken Cup. Like Munster have been in 4 finals, we've been in 3, Ulster have been in 2. You know what I mean? Like we if we don't get to the final, it's a disaster almost. Even though it shouldn't be, because you look at the amount of other teams that are in the competition.
Oh yeah.
Who either they don't make it out of their pools or they get.
That's because we have such an easy league and we can rest all our players all year. And
is our league really easy? Is it ridiculously poor that we're
it's
just
gone
not
that
used
way.
to playing?
It's gone that way very recently. I mean, I was always sticking up for the league when I would be talking to other people from other leagues, and it has got mainly because of the Welsh. But Scottish and Italians were never that strong. Glasgow have come good in the last couple of years, but and when they weren't so good, Edinburgh weren't bad.
But is that any
the Welsh have fallen off a cliff.
I just think that you might say the French
the
league
thing that was always
might have 6 very strong teams.
The thing that was always bad about our league was stuff like officiating, trying to get the referees right, the sighting processes, the fixtures, those little things that were well organised in every league. And in fairness, when your league is all in one country, it's a lot easier to organise all of those things. So, but somebody could have stuck their boot down somewhere and said, look, we're going to have a team of independent officials that go into a game, and we're going to have a sighting process that is always, by officials of other unions, and we're going to have.
This is all very much post hoc ergo propter hoc, because.
Who misses?
These are kind of the same arguments the English were making about when they were winning, their league was strong.
Yeah.
When they were losing, it's because their league was strong.
Yeah.
When we were winning, was our league strong? People were still making the argument it was weak. When we're losing, people are making the argument the league is weak. Has the league? I would say that this year the Pro 12 has been at its weakest in terms of the general standard of rugby.
Definitely.
But you also have to factor in the account one of the countries is in absolute chaos.
Yeah.
Politically, on the field, off the field.
Yeah.
I mean, today, Adam Jones, contract negotiations, all over the shop. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Is he going to sign a central contract? If he is, will Ospreys pick him? You've got all this kind of stuff going on. But those teams are also rebuilding.
Mm-hmm.
They are also in rebuilding phase because they've lost a lot of players, both through natural wastage and through, going elsewhere.
But if you go back to when we won our first Heineken Cup, Cardiff were, a kick in the Horlicks away from joining us in the final. We were a year, maybe 2 years before that, we were getting whitewashed every year in Wales. I think 2 years in a row we didn't win a game in Wales, or if we did, we won once in the Dragons.
That's the natural ebb and flow of a league. Teams get stronger, teams get weaker. I mean, that Cardiff team, like you said, it was a very, very good team. It was a very good team that pretty much broke up in the year around then.
Yeah, but for the 5 years
they beat Toulon, in fact, in a Amlin final the following year.
Yeah. But for 5 years, the Welsh teams had all of their Grand Slam winning teams to select from, and now all those players, all the best players from our league, from the Welsh, from the Scottish teams, and even the Italians now, are all emigrating and they're moving away from our league. Mm-hmm. And if you're taking out your international players,
just to point out, they're not moving away from our league. They're moving towards money.
Okay, fine. But the point is that they are moving out of the league, regardless of their reason. Obviously, it's money, but they are moving away from their own countries to play in either France or in England. we're managed to holding on to our players, but the knock-on effect is that you've got Leinster, Ulster, Munster in the top three, or Leinster, Munster, Ulster in the top three on a fairly regular basis, and like it's almost turning into like the Scottish Soccer League or the, you know, the Spanish League, where it's just these 2 or 3 enormous clubs, or
the English Premier League, or the Bundesliga,
no, Dave, no.
or the Bayern Munich have already won the Bundesliga, or Liga in France, or the Aviva Premiership, or the top 14. I mean, okay, because of the top 14 extended playoff system, you do have a chance of a randomer coming through. But you look at the top 6, they're always the same.
Okay, but it's the top 3 in our league.
You look at the Premiership, they're always the same. So
if you think,
what you've just said is our league is the same as every other league.
No, what I'm trying to say, Dave, is that we have strength in our top 3, whereas in other countries they have the top 6. And I guarantee you that just look at the results. Hold on, just look at the results from the pool stages of the Heineken Cup this year. The only 3 Pro 12 teams that qualified out of the group were the 3 Irish teams. The results are appalling. Like, you know, Ospreys, which was supposed to be one of the strongest teams in the pool, won 1 game. Like, you know, you've got teams like Glasgow. They finished like Glasgow again. You know, one of our other kind of strong teams finished last in their particular pool. You know, you've got,
and they were blown away on opening day by Toulon then in the Mayol as well.
You've the other side of that, Jason. I mean, were you particularly impressed by the French champions when we beat them home and away?
Well, actually, Dave, I thought they were very good in the RDS, and they got a couple of
previous year's
iffy
French
decisions.
champions. We beat them handily enough as well, Montpellier. One of the most expensive teams put together in rugby a couple of years ago. We beat them handy enough. We saw Stade Francais last year. Beat them handy enough. I mean,
Biarritz, they're in free fall.
They're in free fall. So you can make the same argument about any of the teams. I mean, they're not that impressive teams. And so I'm not saying that to negate your point. What I'm saying is every league is pretty much the same. The difference is now that the French league, in particular, that small coterie of 3 or 4 clubs, with the huge money they have, is beginning to move away, certainly from the Pro 12 and probably from the Aviva Premiership as well, because I don't think that they have the freedom of investment that the French teams have to be able to offer the same amount of money, and I don't think they're actually financially secure enough to do it.
Yeah, well, I don't know about the Premiership. I mean, I think that, you know, barring having a man sent off after 14 minutes or after 4 minutes, which we'll come to, I'm sure, Saracens probably wouldn't have beaten. You know, I don't think any of the Premiership sides could be favourites against any of the 3 Irish provinces at the moment. We've had a bad week, and we're looking for reasons why we've had a bad week. You know, if we had won that game and things had gone differently, we'd be the best thing in the world. You know, it's one. You're only as good as your last game, and our last game was shit.
That's what I said when I said post hoc ergo propter hoc. That means after it, therefore because of it. It's looking backwards for reasons why the event happened, rather than the events causing the event, the reasons causing the event to happen. But you know, the relative strengths of leagues is one of those arguments that'll always be argued. I mean, is La Liga stronger than the Aviva? Is La Liga in Spain stronger than the English Premier League? They've got Barcelona and they've got Real Madrid. But you know, they've also got like Getafe and Elche and Almira, and they've all these teams that, you know, are just there to. I mean, it's a regular occurrence that the team finishing third finishes closer to the relegation than the team finishing second. So you know, even though they've got the 2 best teams, the league is weak. The other side of that is you got the English Premier League, who has, you know, not a lot of great quality, but there's always. I mean, Liverpool, the top team, whoever the top team is, Liverpool at the moment will play the bottom team, Fulham there, and there's no certainties. So you've got, you know, it's hard to judge various leagues because you've got different national characteristics, you've got different playing styles and stuff like that. But the point I'm making is you can't just bring everything back and say, you know, that the reason we're in trouble is because of the Pro 12. The reason we're in trouble is because, from a Leinster perspective, is because we didn't play very well and Toulon did.
We got our tactics completely wrong. Like, I mean, again. We were back to the
Let's give Matt a roasting then.
Yeah, well, absolutely, because, you know, a lot of us went over there, a lot of us paid a lot of money, and we want our team to play as best as we can. But I don't understand the rationale that when we've picked Madigan for the three previous games, particularly when you play Munster in the Aviva in front of 50,000 people, that he's dropped the next weekend. Like, I understand that he isn't playing well,
And that there probably isn't much between the two.
but at least in Ulster, they have given Jackson, and Jackson again fluffed his lines when he had an opportunity to. Well, we've come
A
to
dropper,
the game.
yeah.
He had a dropper that he refused to take at the end, or that Ulster refused to get him into the position to. But he also hit one against the post. So his, but at least he's been given the opportunity to try and get the experience. We're bringing Madigan in for 3 games.
They don't
He's
have
not playing well.
Don't have anyone else
Yeah,
to
but
up there.
look, we've got 2 guys that, and neither of them are brilliant.
Ne- Look, let's be honest, right? Let's not dress it up. Neither of them are good enough to play for a European winning team. That's
No,
it.
but
I mean, the real truth. I know a lot of people are emotionally attached to Madigan because he had that one great year.
not just that, it's because he's
and-
an Irish qualified
and he's
player.
and he's an Irish player. But if Ian Madigan was from South Africa, would you sign him for next year after his performance this year?
Not after this year, no.
No, would you?
But if I saw him playing last
Probably
season, I
not.
would.
Absolutely. But the thing is, last season he had a big old Johnny Sexton shaped safety blanket.
Yeah, but hold on
Doesn't
a
have
minute.
that this year.
Hold on a
Well,
minute.
Johnny was
How
injured
much of
towards
that?
the end of the season.
How much of that is down to the mismanagement of?
Well, there's the. But that's
like
what I'm saying.
okay,
there's a lot
it
of
did
these
fall.
reasons.
It did fall a bit funny for him at the beginning of the season, where he was under IRFU rest, and Goppert came in, played a stormer for 2 games. He was on the back foot, but
But he was
there
also
were
getting
certainly
game time in centre.
yeah, but there were certainly times there were key games in the season where he could have been played and wasn't. He could have been persisted with and wasn't. Yes, you need a guy, and that's why Goppert was signed to push the player to make him better. But you also need a bit of an arm around the shoulder sometimes
Definitely.
to give you a bit of confidence.
Well, we
And I think that I'm not a Matt out. I'm not a Matt O'Connor out type person at all. So he hasn't even had a full season yet. But I do. I'm critical.
In fairness, the guy hasn't even made a signing yet.
Well, there you go. But I am critical of his management of that situation with the 2 of them. I think he could have handled it a bit better, and maybe there were times when he could have put the arm around Madigan instead of giving him the boot in the hole.
I agree with that entirely because we said it before Christmas on the show that he just has to pick one and stick with it.
Yeah.
And if he picked Madigan and stuck with him, but he didn't, and that's the thing. And for whatever reason, Madigan hasn't responded well to that. And you kind of want a guy to kind of step up.
Yeah.
As well. So
But
there's arguments to be
But
made
on the other
either
side,
way.
on the other side, would you pick Goppert if we were going in to play
No.
a
No,
big game,
no,
a
no,
huge
no,
game?
Well,
no.
no.
So like, neither one of them is refusing to
But you
take.
see, I don't understand why Copperth was signed. And the thing is, the guy who signed him isn't around to ask.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, he is. He's just down the road in Ireland.
He's not here, and that's the thing. Goppert, I could understand. Actually, that's trite. I can understand why Goppert was signed.
I think
Goppert
he's
was
a good,
signed
steady
to be
player,
a good steady player who would back up Madigan.
And,
Right.
maybe close out a few games. That's what we were all kind of thinking when before the season, before a ball was kicked.
But that boys leads me on to another little
Hatchet job.
Yeah, and I want to ask us about our signings. Like, I have been so underwhelmed by our signings. When you look at the other Irish clubs and the big names that they are signing, we seem to have gone for quite mediocre players over the last number of years. Like, I think about 6 years ago, we took out
Deliberately.
deliberately,
No, not
probably.
mediocre players, I wouldn't say.
No.
But go on.
stars.
Finish your point and
Okay,
then,
yeah. So if you look back in the 08 season, we signed Issa, we signed CJ van der Linde, who was a World Cup winning, and we signed Rocky Elson, what might have been the Australian captain, or certainly was a starter for Australia. And when we picked those guys, it was like, wow, they've done something to try and take Leinster the final hurdle to get up to be European, regardless of whether they were champions, to try and get to the final stage of being regularly competitors.
And then we got to that stage.
Okay, then we got to that stage, and then but look who we brought in then. We brought in Nathan Hines, a fabulous signing. When he left and we got an injury, we brought in Brad Thorne. Then we come back and look at the guys we're signing. Like, okay, Zane Kirshner played for the Springboks, but he's played sporadically. He didn't even make the Leinster team this weekend. We signed Jimmy Goppert, who, was a Newcastle player playing in the second division in England. We signed a couple of second rows from the English leagues, admittedly Irish qualified, but very kind of but you're not. We're not. We've got. We've got.
Well,
There's a reason for that.
Backup centre
wait.
we've got.
Here's the guys. We've signed those guys. Who signed those guys?
But look at the style.
Who signed them?
Joe Schmidt,
Who's everyone blaming?
Matt O'Connor.
Whose fault isn't it?
But how he's.
Matt O'Connor.
But is he not been able to use the players better?
Is there anything? I don't know. I'm a soccer fan, right? I don't know. Have you ever read footballers' autobiographies?
No.
Occasionally.
Occasionally.
Not
What
one.
is the worst position to be in as a professional footballer? New player at a club with a new manager who hasn't signed you, right? That is a terrible position to be in, because you're there and he's turned up and he's already pissed off because he hasn't been able to make any signings because they're already done, and you're the guys filling the slots he wanted to fill. Not saying that that's how it's worked, but it is a standard in professional sport. I don't know what. Well, I have a number of theories why we're not allowed to sign the big names anymore. One of those is we actually had a team full of big names.
That's exactly it.
And it wasn't really.
Ulster needed to be dragged up by the bootstraps when they signed Afoa, when they signed Pienaar, when they signed Nick Williams. We already were. We run too bloody high in
already had
compass.
players that good.
We
But
needed
if you-
somebody
but
to
hold
come
on.
in behind them when they were
You have
playing
to.
for
You
Ireland.
have to be continually changing, otherwise you stand still.
course.
That's it. If you're not growing, if you're not improving, you're going backwards.
So maybe we
Right.
will sign a big name next
But-
year. I don't know. I doubt it. That close. To
I
the
still
World Cup.
think that that there are 5 little letters in the background ticking away that are causing us problems, and those letters are NSSSD, the National Squad Succession Strategy document. I still think that's an issue. It might be an issue for Ulster. They seem to have kind of gotten around it because even when they signed their players, they didn't quite get to the top level, so they're keeping going. But the question is who's coming in this year. I mean, they've signed a project player to replace John Afoa.
Well, yeah, but he's in terms of his projectness,
Well,
he's
he-
replacing Payne.
But
in
in
terms of his position, he's replacing
Bo, but he's a
Afoa.
project player.
Yeah.
Who are they going to sign? Are they going to sign anyone to replace Johan Muller? The
Maybe
RFU
not.
might decide.
Maybe not.
National Squad Succession Strategy determines that your second row next year will be Dan Toohey and Ian Henderson. So you don't know what kind of effect it's happening. You don't know what effect it's had on us. They might say, right, well, you've had Nathan Hines, you've had Brad Thorne. Sorry, lads, you're not getting another one.
You've got Quinn Rue, who
Yeah.
has another year left in his contract and
Ul-
becomes Irish qualified at the end of it.
Munster had Rua Tapoki, Trevor Haas had Rua Tapoki, Jan de Villiers, and now they've got James Downey. I mean,
Who's leaving?
he's leaving,
And Laulala is leaving.
and Laulala. But what I'm saying is, there's a sorry, you had those 3, you're not getting another one, kind of thing. So there is that.
Yeah, but I think that's such a short-sighted view.
I agree
because
entirely.
you've got the season tickets are up for renewal now. When everyone's in a downer, are people going to say, do you know what? I'm not really forking out 300 quid or whatever their season tickets are. A few weeks ago, we had 50,000 people in the Aviva. We've got one of the highest average attendances in Europe. We've got the only professional team in the capital city. I presume that from the corporate side that they get a fair bit of backing because of that the prominency. And people are just going to say, you know what? If there's no one coming through, we can sing all the praises about our academy, but really, when we're beaten off the pitch by the team that have got to the Heineken Cup final last year or won it last year, you kind of go, is there this gulf going to just increase?
Hold on, we're beaten off the pitch by what started out as a team of mercenaries that were brought in by a guy with a load of money, but they're a team now.
Mm-hmm.
They are really a team now. And
anyone who was down in Toulon will only see
exactly
the whole town is fervently
way
behind
behind them.
It would. You could send the most fervently money-grabbing whore to Toulon, right? And when they get there, they see what the rugby means and what it means to the people. They would be
They
converted.
buy in.
I mean, there's a lot of people. Some more stubborn. Some are stubbornly clinging to their old view. But a lot of people went to Leinster, went to Toulon this weekend, thinking, sure, it's only mercenaries, blah, blah, blah. And I think a lot of people had their minds changed
Definitely.
by the people of the town.
I certainly did.
Absolutely.
A lot of people did, and they did. They bought in players, and the town turned them into a team. I think that would be fair to say.
And they were really up for that as well. They knew it was Leinster coming to town, who were previously double Heineken Cup champions 2 years in a row, they had their mentality right, in as much as we had our top 2 inches weren't. Remember we said last week, if we were 99.7%, it wouldn't be enough. Well, we were probably about 95, and they were 99.999 recurring. They were at the races, and they were up for the battle. We weren't, and that's why we lost. Yes, there were lots of technical reasons. Our line out was horseshit. The breakdown was a mess.
Defense was poor.
Defense wasn't great, but it's all down to the top 2 inches. Yeah, well, there's quite a list.
Good.
Yeah.
Scrum was
you
good.
You can name every single element of rugby except for the scrum, and that's where we failed.
Yeah, but some of that is down to tactics. You can lay some of it at Matt O'Connor's door, and you can also lay part of the mentality at Matt O'Connor's door, because it's him that has to stage manage the conditions to have everything perfect. Like, look at Joe Schmidt, the way he organises it down to the last degree. Simple little things.
The problem is in a defeat like this, a defeat like this has lots of fathers. There's a huge amount of blame to go around, and to a certain extent, like, we've been indulging in it here, but to a certain extent, it can be, negative thing to indulge in it too much, because the world didn't end. Leinster Rugby has a game to play this weekend.
Yep.
We've a home match that we need all our support for. Following on from that, so we do have to what we have to do, same as you do when you win. You take the good stuff out of it, what little there is. You learn from the bad stuff, and then you fuck it in the bin.
Okay,
well the bad stuff, the good stuff is that our focus has been designed. Like, this is the first time since the 07-08 season that we haven't had a European semi-final.
Yeah.
Okay, so our focus has been divided. This year it isn't. Okay, we'd rather it was. We'd rather every day and 50 times on Sunday that we were still in the Heineken Cup. But because we're not, let's take the positive out of that. Let's go and brutalise everybody in the league. Ulster have a lot of players injured. Munster are going to be distracted with their semi-final, and if they get any further, or if they don't get any further, which they possibly won't. There are positives there for the rest of the season.
Just as an aside, I was incredibly impressed with Toulon. I really was. With the players they have in every single position. When Johnny Wilkinson, one of the greatest out halves of all time, went off, they shifted Matt Gateau in, and they brought on Maxime Mermoz. And they actually got better. Tactically, it worked out better for them.
Yeah, and when they're losing, Ali Williams and Becky's both,
and they might be back for Munster.
Yeah,
like they've got such ferocious strength.
That they're,
well, that's it as well. Chris Massoi's out, and you've got Armitage on the back of the scrum.
Yeah. Brian Habana didn't even come off.
He didn't get off.
I mean, I was chortling there, and for once, I wasn't sniding at Munster. I was chortling because I just don't see anyone taking that Toulon team. That's
Birchin, he coached Grenoble to beat them.
Yeah. Well, you see, that's the top 14.
With a corrupt referee.
Yeah. But that's
they've got Laporte banned for, wasn't that the game that
I think
he
so,
was banned over? Yeah.
And the FFR found that they were right. He was corrupt.
There you go.
Oh no, they found, what was it? He wasn't corrupt. He was just hopelessly incompetent or something like that, along those lines.
That's
but anyway,
okay then.
So I wasn't having a snide at Munster. I was having a chortle at the idea that anyone's going to beat that Toulon team. And I certainly don't see it coming from the other side of the draw. If Sarries win against Claremont, they're going to get hockeyed, and if Claremont win, they're going to choke.
Yeah, but it's interesting. Like, it's the same for in the semi-final as that season.
Yeah.
Just swapped opponents.
Yeah.
Anyway, look, we probably lingered over the game, but there was one tiny positive. We did. Jordy Murphy did nab a try, so. Again, it was a tactic that we didn't use very often, but what we did...
It was a tactic that we couldn't use very often because we lost so much line-out ball.
Overthrew. You see, who got it?
Yeah.
O'Cullen. His last Heineken Cup, his last try-scoring participation.
Well, that was, I mean, you could say, there was two reasons why we couldn't use that tactic. One, neither of our kickers could find the touchline with a compass. They could have Google Maps on the ball and they still wouldn't find the touchline. And secondly, we couldn't, on the rare occasion that we did get there, we couldn't win a line out. It was just it was one of those days. It was a lovely sunny day, there was plenty of beer, good crack, But the rugby was fucking terrible.
Yeah.
Our rugby was,
Our rugby was terrible.
their rugby was great.
But what an amazing atmosphere.
Oh, superb! Oh, superb! I mean, somebody said it to you, and somebody said it to me separately, and I think somebody said it to you as well. There's only really three things in Toulon: sun, boats, and rugby,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and they delivered all three.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of all three.
Yeah, there's a lot of all three. And in fairness, as like I got there on Thursday, I was kind of first man in, last man out. As you were saying, as a town, its obsession with its team is extraordinary. It was not possible to walk along the street without somebody stopping you every 100 meters, looking to talk about the game, and it was great. You know, it was a real. It's one of the rare towns, you know, in France where there is no rival. There's no football team. There's no. They're playing in Pro D6 or something, whatever it's called in France. But it was great. A great trip, you know.
Yeah. Well, anyway, there was
I even drank wine.
Good man. There was even there was some
I
other
drank
games.
many things.
There was some other games obviously at the
No,
weekend.
no.
So Ulster were narrowly beaten by Sarries, but I mean they kind of shot themselves in the foot, obviously with pain, and
Yeah,
then
a lot of pain.
There's generally a lot of pain when you shoot yourself in the foot.
yeah, but then it seemed like
It's never good.
no, but then everything seemed to go wrong that could go wrong. Best got injured, Pienaar got injured.
Yeah.
As I mentioned earlier on, Jackson hit the post. If he had got that kick, obviously they would have won. But even at the end, they had an opportunity to try and manufacture a droppy, and they
didn't.
Look, Ulster could still be there. Saracens gone home, and Ulster still wouldn't win that game. It was just one of those days.
It's just
I mean, obviously the most contentious issue out of it is the Payne red card.
and pretty much any Irish person is going to say it should have been yellow at most.
Yeah. I wouldn't say yellow at most. I'd say it was certainly yellow. You see, the thing is, right?
Well, other people would say it was a penalty, and even yellow would have been harsh.
Oh no,
anyone taking it in the air, and
Yeah,
also if you,
certainly.
I'm not agreeing with
if
them.
you look at the
I thought
law,
it was
it
yellow.
actually he was right to call it because you have to show due respect to the
You have a duty of care towards the other players.
towards the other player, and he clearly didn't. He hardly got off the ground. His head hit Good's hip as he was in the air and flipped him. And I think also that it probably looked a lot worse than it was.
If you're going to take someone out, you're not going to do it with your face.
You know what? Man in the air is all the rights. It's
Yeah.
that simple. The thing is, okay, was it a red? There's the question. That was it a red? But the thing is, Payne gave the referee the opportunity to ask that question of himself, and then you've only got a 50.
And he did look at it 180 million times.
After that ref asked that question of himself, you've at best a 50-50
He was
chance.
reckless though.
Oh, he was certainly reckless. I mean, people have talked about intent. Intent doesn't come into
No,
it.
no.
He was reckless. He gave the ref an opportunity to give him a red. So Tony Ward today wrote, and it's rare that I agree with him, but he wrote about maybe introducing the on-report system that they use in rugby league into rugby union might be a way for refs to shirk responsibility, but it might also be a way to make sure that
Not too many decisions are on the ref's back.
hairline 50-50 calls in the middle, red or not. Will we agree that it was a yellow?
I was tending to go for a red,
But we agree that
oh,
the minimum,
I'm 100% yellow.
right? So then you've got that.
Yeah, definitely yellow.
You've got that 50-50 call. Is it a red? If you could take that call, maybe take that call out of the ref's hands in the longer term, it mightn't be a bad idea because it gives, he's standing there and he's looking at it and he's looking at it, and he's conscious of the fact that I've been looking at this for 6 minutes.
And
I
he
still can't
probably
make a
did.
call. No, he did look at it for it was 6 minutes from the whistle blowing to the decision being made. So, if you take that out of the referee's hands, he can concentrate on, and he can be more certain about giving yellows.
Well, after all that has been said and done, Ulster played out of their skins after it happened. Like to
cling
go
on.
that close with
And
14
to
men
lead, they led for
the
lots of-
whole. Yeah, they led for quite a bit, not by much, but they did lead. Yeah, Sarries kind of bottled it a bit, but Ulster really,
Sarries don't have it.
they really put it up to them.
They don't have it. If any of the other teams in the quarterfinals, if any of the teams in the quarterfinals were playing Sarries, they'd have won. And if any of the one that didn't win, if they'd had 15 men, they'd have won.
Well, that's true.
Saracens are going to be having gaping rectums after Claremont finish with them.
Well, the Clermont won their 75th game
At
at
home.
Stade Marcel Michelin.
Yeah, fair play to them.
But Leicester put it up to them for a while.
That's a record that might not be broken for considerable many years.
Yeah, Leicester did, but Leicester are a good team. They're honesty of effort. They're the complete opposite of Saracens. I mean, Leicester mightn't be very good, but they try very hard. You know that kind
Certainly
of,
do, yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that they're not very good, but even a bad Leicester team will leave nothing behind them. You know.
And they take Europe very seriously.
Yeah,
which
they do.
Not every French and English team do, you know.
Yeah.
Or Rabo for that matter.
So
And I guess, and the other obviously game was down in Thomond Park on Saturday as well. Munster 47, Toulouse 23.
Fair ball to them. They really took them apart.
They absolutely destroyed them. There was no. I mean, I genuinely thought I had conflicting thoughts coming into the match. First was that, and we've said it before here, Toulouse are not what they once were.
No.
Not by a long chalk. But the other thought I had as the match came closer was Toulouse the Thomond Park factor doesn't come into it with Toulouse, and it didn't. Right, it didn't come into it because it didn't need to come into it, right? Because Munster, and the other thing was Toulouse picked actually, pretty much their strongest team, and it looked like a pretty good team.
Yeah.
They had Camera in the back row. They had
rushed
Pickamoles. Yeah, they had McAllister on.
Who they also rushed back.
But they had all their, if you like, star names there.
Yeah.
And they just got destroyed. They weren't able to cope with the ferocity Munster brought, the intensity, the tactical nous that Munster had.
Just like Toulon did to us.
Munster took surgically the Toulon pack apart.
Toulouse, yeah.
And they
Toulouse
really
pack
went
apart.
after their line out.
Went after the line out. Went after the fact that.
And they lost Peter O'Mahony, their captain.
And he's actually
Early on.
He's having surgery tomorrow, so there's a big doubt over him for the semi-final.
Look at the
and the Argentines.
look at the
were
performance of the guy who came in. Like a project player whose position in Irish rugby had, to a certain extent, been criticised in terms of what he's actually contributed since he signed for Munster. But Stander was outstanding. He was absolutely outstanding for Munster.
Great, yeah. Well, he got man of the match too.
And well deserved it was. And the thing was, I mean, they turned all what might be Toulouse's positives into negatives for them. You talk about
they hammered their hammer.
They have a huge back row. Well, let's just move them all around the place and see how they like running. The answer is not very much. They brought Toulouse brought on your man Galin, the
fat boy,
the French Thomas Walden. I mean, and he looked. I'll tell you who he looked like.
Big, strong, and dumb as a bag of spanners.
He looked like
that Thomas Walden.
He looked like Craig from Coronation Street out there. Right, he was just absolutely hopeless. Yeah, well, if anyone who watches Coronation Street know what I mean. He was just absolutely hopeless, and everything that Toulouse thought might be a plus, like say the inventiveness of Luke McAllister. Munster went, well, you can't kick for Toffee and his decision making shit, and really hammered in on him that forced him to make bad choices every time, and that's what they did. They did to Toulouse what Toulon did to us.
Well, they have to carry the flag for Ireland in the semi-finals, and
it's their 11th semi-final. That's a very impressive,
absolutely.
And I think that most of those have been
away.
Yeah.
I think the two home semi-finals or something.
Yeah.
Like that.
Well, they'll be in the Stade Velodrome for this one, so it'll be interesting.
Well, it's going to be a huge ask for them to go down there. Like, obviously, we've been down there. And
I'd love to see them do it, be quite honest with you. Yeah. I mean, I'm torn between, obviously, there's a little part of me that doesn't want them to have 3 Heineken Cups, because we've got 3. But there's a bigger part of me that'd love to see them do it, just to say an Irish team could do it, even though they might be showing us up. I still like to see them do it.
I just don't see anyone having a hope against that.
I don't think they will.
I think it'll be a lot closer because I think that Munster style will restrict Toulon somewhat because Munster won't be dropping balls all across the back line the way that we were. But I think that Toulon will win out in the end, pretty much the same way. Not by the same scoreline, but pretty much the same. They will beat Munster in every area of the pitch because they're just that good. Except maybe in the front row. Well, they might actually have a better front row than Munster's.
Well, that was the only positive out of our game. We were ferocious in the front row against them. Yeah. But even then, when we got a huge shove on, they got awarded penalties against us in the front row. And
you see, the one thing that their front row had to fall back on was immense experience in the form of both Carl Heyman and Castro Giovanni.
Well, I think one thing that it showed how world class Keane Healy is.
Oh, yeah.
Not that we needed to.
He's on a different level. Every time.
And he's not the full. Is the ankle still a little bit dodgy?
I mean, you can see it. You can see it. He's not fit. There's no way he's fit.
Well, anyway, we've got to get back on the horse next week.
Back on the horse.
Back on the horse.
Swansea.
That's the heroin for you. Yeah, so we're playing Ospreys on Friday night, so we've only got a 5-day turnaround, and there's a lot of aching bodies, I presume, and there's boys that are going to be rested, and McFadden's out as well. He's likely to miss the even Argentinian tour.
Yeah.
And Luke is maybe not quite a week too soon, but maybe he is.
So it'll be interesting to
Allegedly
see.
back in the picture.
But I think this will define the team, to see what way did they react after being dumped out of Europe. I remember, it must have been 10 years ago now, both Leinster and Munster lost at, I think, either semi-final or quarter-final stages, and Munster suffered their heaviest ever defeat, and we weren't too far behind them the following week in the Celtic League, as it was
Was that
then.
2003 perhaps?
Might have been around then,
Yeah, because I think Cardiff did for Munster.
Yeah, and someone hammered us as well.
I mean, what you'd really want to see, and what I think the team has within them, both physically and mentally, is to go out and absolutely be ruthless.
Yeah.
Like, we're all hurting, but they've got to really step
Be
up
hurting
again.
more.
Yeah.
Well, the few positives that we do have is we've got that squad that got us through the rest of the season.
Yeah.
You know, we've got a broad squad. The Ospreys don't. Theirs is fairly thin, and they've got quite a few injuries. Plus, we don't really want to be going up to Ravenhill needing a win.
No.
And it's not that we'll need a win to keep ahead of Ulster. I think we might need if we don't win against the Ospreys, we might need a win in Ravenhill to guarantee staying ahead of Munster. You know.
The thing is, like, that I think Ospreys are 4 points now behind Glasgow.
Yeah.
In fifth position.
So they're going to be going for it to try and get back into fourth.
Yeah, exactly, to try and get that last spot.
I think their fourth is gone even if they beat us. But if we beat them, we've got Ulster and 2 handy games at home. Ulster being a really hard game. And I don't think we'd need, if we beat Ospreys, we won't need to beat Ulster. We can go up there and get hockeyed and we'll still top the league pretty much.
I don't think that would be acceptable in terms of, you know, what the team has to do for itself.
I'm not saying I want us to go up there and get hockeyed. I'm just saying
I think for the team, for itself, it's going to want to, for want of a better phrase, reassert its manhood. So I think that, you know, I know what you're saying in terms of the mathematics of the league.
Well, the mathematics of the league is all I'm talking about.
That's fair point, because I don't think the team would accept anything other than, you know, ruthless domination for the remainder of the season.
Yeah, let's hope so.
Yeah, but I suppose we're going to see the mantle of O'Connor and see if he can remotivate the team.
Well, it's going to be a very interesting, you know, it's now April. Whatever signings have been done
most of them.
They're all done November, December, maybe January. That's generally when the work is done. So it'll be interesting to see from that period then to the end of this season is going to be, we're going to see the Matt O'Connor, what he has, and then into next season with the first year of his team. So it's going to be it's an interesting trial for him. You know, he is on trial because and it's unfortunate for him that in a way, because he's coming in on the back of the most successful coach that Leinster's ever had, best
it's
coach.
It's like trying to, you know, go on stage and chase stadium after the Beatles.
Yeah,
you know, it really is.
The best coach in Europe. I don't think there's any question Joe Schmidt is the best coach in Europe.
Nope.
So it's a very, very hard task for him.
Don't forget that the previous guy also won a Hinding Cup and a Pro 12.
Yeah.
So, but the thing is, though, that I think all of us supporters have now got to the level where we expect, you know, to get a home semi-final in the Pro 12, to get out of the pool,
but
to win a quarter-final and at least be in a semi-final.
He also has the problem that Joe, I mean, leaving aside success or whatever, that Joe created a team and a coaching staff that were genuinely liked and admired by the supporters. Genuinely liked and admired. Joe's a lovely, lovely guy. And
as well as being a ruthless bastard in the
but you want that. We haven't got to know Matt
ruthless
O'Connor
bastard in a good way.
Yeah. We haven't got to know Matt O'Connor yet.
Yeah.
You know, so
I have to say, in the media interviews, he doesn't.
Seems a bit dour.
I don't know about dour, but he just. You can't really work him out. I don't think you can. You know, he seems a bit kind of blasé sometimes. Yeah, you know.
Well, Australians can be off. I mean, you're talking about dour in interviews. Checker.
Yeah.
I mean, for God's sake. I mean,
he was dour in real life too, though.
No, but actually, he wasn't. That was the thing about Michael Checker. He wasn't. He's actually. He's a very genuine, engaging fellow. But I would have hated any time when Santa had that league. You could not have given me enough money to take the job as the guy from Setanta who went up to interview Michael Cheika after
Exactly.
the match. You could not. I mean, they eventually had to bring in like a rugby league international to do it. You know, Tulson Tollett.
Yeah.
But because you couldn't give me that job. But we kind of warmed to that. We liked that particularly curmudgeonly.
Yeah.
But he brought
Well, I don't
bite and
think-
bollock to the team,
Yeah.
which we
Exactly,
needed.
yeah.
And we haven't got to know Matt O'Connor yet, either professionally or, for want of a better phrase, personally, in terms of the personality he's going to impose on the team, and whether he creates a word I've used in the past, the gestalt that Joe Schmidt created.
Yeah, well,
Well, there was
we shall see.
one glimmer of hope at the weekend was that the A team hockeyed Munster A
Yeah.
on Friday night in Donnybrook, and myself and John were at it before we headed off. But Leinster were
I was drinking.
Leinster were absolutely ruthless.
We were
that day.
drinking too. Yeah, they were. They did to Munster what Toulon did to us, and Munster did to Toulouse.
But there's some good performances from some of the young backs.
Circular flow of riding.
Circular flow. Yes.
I believe Colin Marsh had a very good game.
Yeah.
Kyle Marsh had a great game, and his kicking was incredible as well.
Yeah.
I think he missed one kick, and like he that was a pretty far out touchline one from memory.
This is a strange one, because is this a thing, or is it just what I imagine? Guys with his body type, he's ginger, freckly, he's quite pale, tend to find it harder to physically mature in terms of putting on weight and
The
stuff
Celtic
like that.
genes,
Yeah.
these famous Celtic genes.
get
that
Seamus
Matt
from
Williams.
WWE.
Went out of it.
Is there signs that he's
Bulking up.
physically filling out, or
I wouldn't have said so. No, I saw him up fairly close, and he's not huge by any means, but he played very well. He's very skillful. He ran the back line well.
Yeah.
And poor old Andrew Conway out in the wing was
With his
standing out on the wing.
But how
most
his
of the
star
night.
has fallen.
instant
God
karma's
love
going to
him.
get you?
I feel sorry for him, but bad decision. And he came good in Leinster after he made the bad decision, and he's down there and he's nowhere.
Yeah.
And he was nowhere in the game. He wasn't coming in off his wing looking for work. He wasn't. There wasn't much work to be had, in fairness.
Didn't get
But
much ball out in the backs there anyway, did they?
no, and that back line was fair. Like when looking at that on paper, Ivan Deneen, and there's a few heavy hitters for the A team. Luke O'D in the other wing, guys you'd expect to be pummeling a few bodies, but they didn't, and they didn't have it in the pack either. They didn't, it was a bit like watching us in Toulon or Toulouse in Munster.
Who stood out for Leinster A?
For Leinster, Marsh, Jack Conan was excellent. In
Was, yeah.
the second row, who was in the second? Rue and Denton. Denton was good. The front row. I mean, they were all.
But it was Munster were so poor.
There was a lot of that.
Like
Yeah, what
their
was the relevance of that in
hooker,
it?
their hooker was as poor as our hooker on.
But
on
wasn't their
Saturday.
hooker that's Niall Scanlon?
That's right. Yeah.
Who's a very very promising player. We've seen him play for the under-20s last couple of years and look like a real player.
Your man came on, actually, Jack O'Donoghue, the under-20s lad, and scored a try. Look, about the only bright thing in Munster, he's number 8.
Yeah.
The only bright thing for Munster, and he came on at about 45-50 minutes. And
Tuck
had
Cullen
it.
was good.
Yeah.
He seemed to be a real leader on that team.
So, that'll be our only day out on Heineken Cup semi-finals.
So
We're in
lads, now, we have to
Pontypridd.
get the brains trust together. How do we spin it that the British and Irish Cup is a far superior competition to the Heineken Cup?
Just is, Dave.
Yeah, how do we spin
Jesus.
Well, answers on the back of a tenner. Anyway, boys, thanks very much, and cheers. Thanks a million for watching.